Okay, this broadcast, this ego-utilitarian, this egotism, this ego-utilitarian broadcast is about autism, right? So in this video, I attempt to resolve the is-ought dichotomy, or just explain the relationship between is and ought claims, or prescriptive and descriptive statements or concepts. I know Hume probably had some type of idea of what he was trying to convey. I'm not going to look what that is. I'm just concerned with the relationship. So I'm not going to look into what he actually. Just from what I present here, you can apply it to whatever he was trying to show. Right? I don't know his intent, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. Anyways, I've been working on this little idea. It seemed obvious to me, but never put it down on paper. I've told people about it, and I just saw a video from Tenuous Theories with his explanation. I know we've mentioned it a little before in a little talk about. We both agreed that at least that all oughts were a subset, were a type of is. But he goes on further to say that they're equivalent sets, right? All oughts are ises, and they're set equivalents, and all ises are a subset of oughts. Which that latter part is, I see what he means, but I don't rigorously agree with it. Anyways, on with the presentation. So, egotism says that all oughts are a subset of ises, right? And not the other way around, because subsets aren't a commutative relation. The idea that prescriptive statements are mutually exclusive from descriptive statements is a fallacy, which plagues all of modern philosophy. At least the stupid people I kind of watch, like Molyneux, and well, he's pretty much the only one I watch on philosophy. I don't really care for modern philosophy. So the idea that they're mutually exclusive is a fallacy, since prescriptive statements have truth value according to the relative theory of value of egotism, right? So applying the relative theory of value, every prescriptive statement, every evaluation of a strategy has a truth value. Oh, every well-defined statement, every well-defined valuation of any strategy for a particular actor has a truth value to it. So genuine, that means you're not trying to lie when you make the statement. Genuine prescriptive statements attempt to describe the optimum strategy for an actor, real or hypothetical, given particular conditions and restrictions. Right. So there are analogies in math. Right. In calculus, we have we first learn optimization problems, and in optimization problems, we're often given the task of either a curve or a function where we're obligated to find local minimas and maximas, or absolute minimum and maximums, and we can use calculus to do that. So it's analogous in a way that every time we're given a problem in life as an actor, we set an objective, and in in egotism's perspective, there's a primary objective for which all other objectives are just a means to that end, and it's imposed on us by nature, which is perpetuation of instances of the meta self. So when given that primary objective, and all actions for any actor must serve this purpose, or else you're punished via natural selection. And so you can see every time you're given these well-defined function or surface, the minimas and maximas, either local or absolute, are determined. That means they aren't subjectively determined by the mind. They are determined mathematically. They are not up to you. There's a correct answer out there, and you'll get penalized by whoever's grading your exam if you're right or wrong, if it's accurate to reality, right? So optimization morality. Optimum refers. Optimum answers have four possibilities, right? So anytime you're given a dilemma or problem as an actor, there's several possibilities. Four to be exact: no solution, a unique solution, finite multiple amount of solutions, and an infinite amount of solutions. Right. So there's in linear algebra, you're often given a system of equations, right? And these system of equations, your goal. This is like your problem. This is like a problem for an actor. This is analogous to the problem of of any actor, right? You're given a problem and you're given restrictions under which, and those restrictions could be objectives and conditions, right? Your goals and the conditions surrounding you restrict, determine all the optimum solutions an actor should take. Not only the optimum, but the relative value between strategies, right? So for any two strategies, you can compare and evaluate one in terms of the other, at least which is a superior strategy, or which yields a greater payoff, right? So in linear nonlinear algebra, like solving a system of equations, systems of equations are analogous to the problem itself. They describe the problem, they give you the goals, they give you the conditions, and your task is to find the set of actions, or in the case of a system of equations, the set of points that make all equations simultaneously true. And it's a perfect analogy, right? I mean, so you can see here that all these systems, whether it be underdetermined, overdetermined, consistent or inconsistent, or whether they have a unique no solution here and an infinite amount of solutions. It's the same for all type of objectives and strategies, right? And payoffs. It's all determined by reality, and that's important because I need this to be true. I need determinism to be true in order to deduce the relative theory of value. And from the relative theory of value, you can deduce morality for any actor given the appropriate information and the ability to process that information. So the number and type of restrictions, as far as the equations you're given in any system, determines how many solutions satisfy the system. Or the solution is another way of saying the set of points that make all equations simultaneously true, like determined, consistent, unConsistent, underdetermined, and overdetermined systems. So you can see each equation given in a linear or nonlinear system are like pieces of information, are restrictions that must be satisfied in order for you to, quote unquote, accomplish the goal of whatever actor you under consideration, right? So, for instance, I mean, your problem might be get to work. So you need to. So the restrictions might be you're looking for an economic gas economic car, and so that might be one restriction. Another restriction, it must be under $10,000. And you can see the more restrictions you place, or the more limitations you have a certain budget. You can only buy a car from a certain radius around you, like location. So all these are restrictions to your problem. And given a well-defined problem and a well-defined set of restrictions, which are analogous to the equations in any system of equations, the set of answers that make it true are already determined. They're not up to you, right? You can subjectively try to make a guess at them. Like you can subjectively come up with an answer, but there's an objective answer out there. And this is what I call the relative theory of value as far as morality is concerned. Okay, so we see the equivalence. So underdetermined systems are when the number of equations given in a system aren't as you have more in an underdetermined system. You have you have more variables than equations, and in that respect, it's more likely to have multiple answers, right? It can still be inconsistent, have no solution, but um, it's more likely that you have an multiple amount of solutions, either finite or infinite, because in an underdetermined system, what's happening is you have more variables than equations, and the equations are restrictions or pieces of information that must be satisfied, and it's the less amount of restrictions you have on your goal um, is inversely related with the amount of solutions you have. So if I only say that I want a red car, right? All the red cars are possible as far as satisfying my goal, right? If I add another restriction, and every restriction I add on top of that, just as long as it's not the same restriction in some way, decreases my options or decreases the solution set as far as or the number of strategies that work for the actor. And this is what I call morality, and this is why I make fun of the Austrian school, because saying something like value is subjective, especially when it comes to morality and actions, when an actor's evaluating strategy, these are not up to the mind of the actor. It all his actions have objective consequences, and it's an important thing in morality, because if you say value is subjective, you become a moral relativist almost, and it's a ridiculous assumption. And conclusion. So, like a determined. Okay, so now in game theory, right? So we use prescriptive analysis in game theory. In game theory, it's a science of making prescriptions, prescriptive statements, right? This is what stupid Austrians don't understand with the ordinal value, because in game theory, we analyze games, right? So any actor is undergoing a game, especially when he's interacting with other actors. It's an interaction between all of reality is an interaction between other actors and objects in reality, and based upon the goals, you can analyze what's the best strategy to accomplish those goals. And again, ego-utilitarianism, egotism says that there's a primary objective that's imposed upon you. You must satisfy this. Every action must be toward that. Any action that does not either hurts that primary objective or does not satisfy that objective is a waste of time. Okay, so you can see in game theory, right? I mean, so there's the idea of like dominated strategy or best response or efficiency, right? So just in dominated strategies, right? Comparison of strategies, a strategy or like an action for an actor, right, is strictly dominated from other strategy if this condition is met, or when the payoff is greater, given all other strategies of other actors, or the conditions. Given all the conditions here, given the conditions of the problem, the payoff is determined, and if one strategy is quote unquote strictly dominated, that means the payoff is greater, right? And there's also a weakly dominated, meaning that it can also be equal to, at least equal to, right? Equal to or greater than. That means so it's a better strategy, in other words. And so in game theory, this is a tool for morality here. So this is why I've constructed egotism the way it is. I've deduced relative value from determinism, and the fact that, and because I assume determinism, which is one of egotism's axioms, and I deduced the relative theory of value. And I also deduced this conclusion, right? All oughts are a subset of is from the assumption of determinism. And when this happens, morality becomes defined, and it's not up to the subject. It's not subjective, right? So, okay, so prescriptive concepts describe what is thought, at least from the perspective of who's who's prescribing to be the superior strategy of the actor. But these concepts or these statements have truth values, right? It's either true or false if it's well defined in the statement. So one of egotism's axioms is that the universe is determined, right? It's a subset of determinism. Therefore, the universe, and another way of saying I believe in determinism is saying that the universe is mechanical, and I've heard people say causal, right? But it's better to say mechanical, which is same thing, except more technical because it has to do with physics, like cause and effect, right? And these causes and effects aren't subjective, right? In that the mind creates them. I mean, the mind, just opinion determines them. Reality determines them. That means okay, so I have a very rigorous definition of determinism. So determinism means that the probability of any well-defined event in time is either 0 or 1 and nothing in between. But also, you can extend it beyond just events in time. It extends beyond events in time. Since the universe is mechanical, it also means the probability of any well-defined event in a well-defined hypothetical, not just in reality, is either 0 or 1 and nothing in between. And the value of all well-defined strategies in a given hypothetical, real or not, is determined mathematically. Man, that was a run-on sentence, but I just wrote this up today and I didn't proofread it yet. So, as I often do. So, and when I say determined mathematically, I mean determine it in a mathematical sense. Determine means it's not subjective, right? It's objective. Hence, the relative theory of value, the relative objective theory of value necessarily follows, and therefore we can analyze what is truly moral under egotism using the primary objective of perpetuating the instances of one's meta self. So that's morality, and given that well-defined objective, and given all the circumstances surrounding an actor, we can determine in any hypothetical or in actual reality, we can determine. And also, if we assume that we have perfect intellect, right? No, a perfect intellect being will discover true morality or the optimum set of solutions for that given problem. And there's, I think, I'm not sure yet, but I think there's always at least, no, I'm not going to make the assumption that there's always a unique solution. I'm not going to go that far in this talk. I haven't really thought about it. So the actor of concern when analyzing moral strategy as far as egotism is concerned is the meta self, right? So and I define meta self here. I'm not sure if this is the first time I've showed this particular version. It's more mathematical in set theory. It's the smallest, in terms of descriptors, conceptual set that contains all the descriptors that describe the actor under analysis. And I usually use the term object, but since I'm talking about like morality and game theory, I'm gonna, and since strategy has to do with an actor, I'm just gonna say actor here. So you can see this is a mathematical definition, and it has a lot of implications. You can see what you're actually concerned with an actor. You're not necessarily concerned with your physical body here, as I've said before. So again, I was kind of prompted to do this. Well, I was going to do this either way, but I decided to like make it essentially a video response to Tenuous Theory's video. And he went, so I think we essentially agree that oughts are a subset of is, or prescriptive is a subset of descriptive statements or concepts. I mean, they don't even have to be said. I mean, everything's egotism says all concepts exist by default. So every statement already exists before you say it. I know it's weird. I might have to explain that in another video, but I won't get into it here. But he goes on further to say that they're set equivalent, or they're set equivalent, meaning that one's a subset of the other, right? And vice versa. That means not only is ought a subset of is, but is also a subset of ought, or descriptive is a subset of prescriptive. And I know what he's saying. I mean, there's a lot of But I don't, so again, I don't think so, because prescriptions are statements explicitly describing the optimum strategy set or a sufficient strategy set of action of an actor. More specifically, you can say prescriptive statements discuss the value of any strategy. Right? Anytime a statement is discussing the value of any strategy, whether it be a relative comparison or absolute valuation, that's a type of prescriptive statement. And it's also descriptive, right? Because you're describing the value of a strategy. And so descriptive doesn't explicitly refer to strategy. And in given this definition of explicit description, given the definition of descriptive and prescriptive statements, you can see that one's a subset of the other, but this is just a superset, right? Descriptive does not refer explicitly to strategy, to the value of a strategy, therefore it's not prescriptive. And so just given this rigorous definition, you can see that the descriptive is not a subset of prescriptive. And I know what he's saying, though, even though one can infer strategy from it, right? So given all these informations, it's like since it's already determined, all the values of strategies are determined, therefore it's like it implicitly values. So it's determined. Again, it's determined, and therefore he says it's a subset. But just strictly speaking, it doesn't refer to strategy explicitly, so therefore it's not prescriptive. And so that's all I wanted to talk about. It's important because of the axiom of determinism, the deduction from that of relative value, and then the deduction from that of what actual morality is, which you can analyze with game theory, or at least you can try to analyze with inferior intellect as far as humanity is concerned. And again, given a well-defined primary objective like perpetuating instances of the meta self, you can analyze to see kind of like where we're going, the set of actions that are optimum for any actor. So I'll conclude it here. If you have any questions, comments, or criticisms, leave them in the comments below. The source material, I've made this blog or this outline, it's just an outline, available in the description below. Contact me on Facebook on the Ego Utilitarian page. Now since I have so much trouble pronouncing it, I've decided to concatenate it into egotism, and it's kind of a play on the philosophy of egotism, right? Kind of like an extreme egoism, or like a really selfish version of egoism, which is just a more extreme version. But you can see the spelling is different. It's with a U, so you can see the concatenation: ego, Oughtism. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation of Oughtism. The is-ought dichotomy resolution. Thanks for listening.